welcome all to our panel discussion today on sales incentives, best practices for improving business results. We would like to start our panel discussion today by introducing ISB Center for Business Markets, also referred to as ISB CBM. The center was launched in April 2019 and it provides a platform for collaboration between industry and academia. The mandate for the center is to get research output, which is focused on practice and also conduct workshops on topics relevant to marketing and sales. Since the beginning of April 2020, we have been organizing several webinars on different topics to disseminate knowledge that might help our audience in both personal and professional growth. After this event, please take a minute to visit our website isb.edu/cbm to know more about our upcoming events and also visit our LinkedIn page for the topics that we've covered so far. We have today three esteemed members in our panel to share insights on sales incentives. First is Professor Raghuram Bommaraju. He is a Senior Assistant Professor of Marketing at Indian School of Business. Prior to joining ISB, he worked at Iowa State University for 2 years. Professor Bomaraju's research exclusively focuses on sales force management. His work on sales has won several awards, the recent one being an Excellence in Research Award from the American Marketing Association. Another member in our panel today is Ms. Aarti Chandra. Aarti heads compensation and benefits for PepsiCo India and has been working for Pepsi for the last 9 years now. Having passed out of XLRI, her journey with Pepsi started as a management trainee in field sales in Haryana and has been an exciting one, taking her across India to Dubai, to Geneva and back to India in Delhi. She's done HR business partner roles, but has spent the last 6 years in Total Rewards, getting experience across various markets in Asia, Middle East, Latin America, and Europe. Last but not the least, we have Mr. Varun Gupta. Varun has a unique experience in sales and HR combined. He's a CEO of Atmax Technologies, which is the first company in Asia to provide dedicated cloud solutions, sales incentives, and variable salary management. Over to you, Professor, to take this discussion forward.
Yeah, thanks, Asta. Thank you, Aarti, and thank you, Varun, for joining me today. And if any of you are wondering how did a marketing person manage to get two HR people for a discussion, so we all come from the same school, XLRI Jamshedpur. So Aarti was 1 year senior to me. So probably this is a little bit of a chance for me to rag her in the panel discussion. And Varun and I are in the same batch in Excel, and he was in the HR program, and I was in the business management program. After I graduated from XLRI, I went to the US for my PhD in marketing, and then I worked for a couple of years there. So that's when my interest in sales developed. So my research exclusively focused on sales management with a special interest in incentives. And Varun has recently started a firm which focuses on sales incentives from a technology point of view. And Aarti has an immense experience in actually designing the incentives. So that's the genesis for this panel discussion. So with that, let me actually tell you the structure of the webinar, the panel discussion. So we'll broadly cover two important points here. So the first one, we'll be talking about the design issues itself. So what are some of the best practices when you're designing the incentives? And the later half of the part, we will cover some of the implementation challenges. And maybe the last 15 to 20 minutes, we will open it up for questions from the audience. So before we get into that, we have a one poll that we would like you to take. So if you hover your mouse and go to the three dots, there should be an option to take a poll. So if you click on that, you should be able to see a poll. So if you can take a minute and answer the poll. The question is, which function owns sales incentive design in your organization?
Raghu, you're starting us off with a very controversial question.
Yeah, that's the idea. So I hope everybody is able to find the poll, or is it visible to everybody?
I'm able to see it as a panelist, but I'm not sure how it is for the attendees.
Could anybody just indicate in the chat that if they're able to see the poll? Yeah.
Prof, one of the participants has responded that they can see and they can vote. So I think we are good there.
Okay. So can we, Asta, can we end the poll?
You want to end it now, Prof? We've set it for 15 minutes, and after 15 minutes, another question will get displayed.
No, that's okay. We can end this poll and then we can go to the other question.
Okay, sure, Prof.
So the reason probably I was very curious about this question is, as a marketing person, I always assume that probably sales is the one which should be responsible for it. And obviously RT has a different viewpoint, and Varun, who has worked both in sales and HR, he might have a different viewpoint. So I thought this might be a good starting point for our panel discussion. So Arti, maybe before the results come in, so why don't we get started? So what's your take on it? So which function should own the sales incentives? So is it sales, HR, finance, marketing?
I've actually seen it done differently in different companies, and I've seen it done differently in the same companies in different markets. So the way I've seen it work best is when it's a joint ownership, right? You need a good mix of salespeople with an understanding of, what's the right incentive design from a KPI perspective, right? What are the targets that we should have? So you definitely need someone very strong from the sales market, sales strategy, or commercial team, which is playing a role over there. It's equally important, and many times people forget to have a finance person in the mix here, because whenever you're talking about incentive payouts, you're building in some sort of a leverage scale, right? Which tells you that if you underachieve your targets, what should be paid out. If you overachieve them, how much can we afford to pay you, which is sustainable from a P&L perspective. So that sales finance person being there is extremely crucial. And I think last but not the least, HR, right? Because they're the ones who own compensation for employees and all of the very amazing market benchmarking that we do on an annual basis to understand what's the right pay mix, right? What should be the amount of the incentive, etc., is also very important input required in understanding what's the best cohesive incentive design to bring about. So trick question according to me, but jointly owned is what I think is the right answer.
Okay. So Varun, do you have any take on that?
So Raghu, I feel whosoever does it should do it well, and it should have right impact on the people. That is most important. So I go over that. I am more about the process, how the end results are, how the outcome are, rather than who does it.
Okay, so maybe let's go with RT's viewpoint here. Let's say we have this beautiful team, cross-functional team from sales, finance, and HR. Obviously, you don't have to recalibrate your incentives every week or every month, right? So what are some of the signs that tells a firm, okay, maybe it's time to revisit the incentive structure? It has been a while, but what could be some like signs that they can look for before it's not too late?
Sure, sure. So when I see incentive plans, I see them in two parts, right? The first part is basically the design part, which is your who, why, what part. The second part is actually your process part, which is when and how part. Now, issue in any of them will lead to lack in desired results, right? So when I talk about the desired results, the issue can be found out by few signs or red flags, you can say, which may be quantitative in nature and qualitative in nature, right? So when I talk about quantitative red flags, they will be, for example, your sales team members, right? The highest performers, which are part of the sales team, are not achieving double the amount of the median, which means you're not incentivizing your sales team member, the highest performers, vis-a-vis your median performers. Second thing, in a quantitative way, if we look in a quantitative way, is that 50% of your salespeople are not crossing the threshold, which is a big red flag. It was 50% sales team members are not crossing the threshold. There is some issue either in the set targets or in the way you are motivating them.
So it should not be either too low. At the same time, I guess it should not be too high.
Exactly.
Right? It should not be having meeting the target.
And in fact, a very interesting thing is that at least 75% of your sales team members should try to achieve the targets which we have set them, which is at least 75% of the targets, right? So all these parameters will help you to make sure that the signs, the red flags, are taken care of. If I talk about qualitative aspects, then a very common thing is if you are launching a plan and your plan effective date is a month back, that's a big red flag. It may be a design flaw, majorly it will be a process flaw, but make sure that your plan communication should be very near or before the effective plan date, right? The last thing which I generally see in the market is the sales managers and the
just a second. Can you please elaborate on a little bit on your last point? What do you mean by that?
Which are you're talking about plan effective date?
Yes.
Yeah. So when I talk about plan effective date, see, when a company launches an incentive plan, if they are doing it beforehand, it means they are very serious about the plan. Because incentive plan for any sales team member is one of the most important things in the entire employment, right? Okay. If they are not getting motivated enough because they see the lack of seriousness on behalf of the company, imagine what the motivation cycle of the entire plan will be for salespeople. So that's why make sure if you are launching a plan, it has to be before or either very near to your plan effective date, right?
So for example, sorry, just trying to understand. So for example, if I'm launching a plan for the next year, let's say 2021, right? So I should have the plan ready by March 31st of next year, and I should be launching it by April 1st, right? So somewhere within that week and not too late. Is that right?
That's right. I am saying even the communication, when you talk about communication, you have to start 15 days beforehand because there are multiple Q&As which will come from the sales people. And if sales people start selling your products or service in the market, go out and meet customers without knowing what they have to look for from a performance measure or a component part of a sales plan, it's an issue.
No, I think that's a great point, Varun. Yeah, please continue.
Sure. The last part from a red flag standpoint I was saying is that you should understand as an organization how your sales manager and sales people are they in sync or not. The objectives should match. As and when the sales people or the sales manager come to you and say, hey, I am getting penalized for something which I am not responsible for, it's a big red flag again. Imagine your sales people, as an example, your sales people are getting credited in an incentive plan for the volume of sales, right? But your sales manager who are managing these team are actually getting incentivized on the profitability. That's a big objective mismatch. That's a big red flag as well. So I talked about quantitative aspects from a number standpoint and qualitative aspects from a plan launch and the way objectives are aligned.
Yeah, thanks, Varun. I think these are very insightful. So coming back to Aarti, so let's say you notice some of these red flags and you think a firm decides, okay, maybe it's time to redesign the incentives or at least assess the effectiveness of the incentives. So what are some of the best practices that you have seen in the industry?
Yeah. So Raghu, when designing an incentive, of course, you have to look at the job responsibility, understand that, like what Varun was also saying, that for an employee and a manager, you won't have exactly the same incentive, but you can't even have diametrically opposite KPIs, right? So you need to understand the job responsibilities and based on that, identify the KPIs that you need to be incentivizing, right? Is it a commission plan, which means you're paying a certain percentage of the sale? Is it a bonus plan like related to certain input KPIs where based on a certain target achievement you get payout, etc. So that's important. But when it comes to measuring the effectiveness of these KPIs, what I've seen many a times teams make the mistake of thinking that till I don't put it in the sales employee's incentive plan, he's not going to do it. That's not true. You cannot, can you imagine putting all of your annual objectives into your variable pay plan? I mean, seriously, right? So it's very important to be able to prioritize as to which are those strategic, measurable, and impactful KPIs which positively correlate with your business results. Those are the kinds of KPIs that you should put as a part of your incentive design. The other piece is also how much do you pay for achieving these KPIs, right? So we call something called a leverage scale, which is basically how much do you pay for achieving less than target, for achieving target, and then for achieving more than target. Your leverage scale also should be something which is sensible from an employee's perspective. It is lucrative enough to actually drive the behavior that you're trying to drive, but at the same time, it should be affordable for the organization. So as an example, let's say if your business is achieving, let's say 110% of the plan for that month, but your employee is getting 300% of the payout, that's probably too much. It's too much of a stretch. Your P&L won't take it long enough, right? But at the same time, if you're achieving 110%, but on an average, people are just getting 50% of the incentive, then you just get either very difficult personal targets for them, or there's something seriously wrong with your leverage scale.
Right.
So I think these are two big pillars, the incentive KPI design as well as the leverage, which are important to keep in mind.
So these make perfect sense to me, Aarti. So I'm just wondering, so why would a firm include some of the KPIs which may not be correlated with the business performance? So do you have any examples from your experience?
Yeah, I think especially when you see in the FMCG industry, right, it's very common to have what we call input KPIs. These are KPIs which basically measure in some quantified way your in-store execution, right? It could be about how you're merchandising in the store, your share of shelf, etc.
Right.
And what sometimes happens is that a very high achievement of one is you can't really overachieve those KPIs. There's only so much you can do. And then the second one is that overachieving on them may not necessarily drive that double volume that you're looking for, right? Probably more calls made, a better strike rate are KPIs which will drive that top line for you and have that line of sight of the KPI. So it's very important to keep in mind what are those measurable targets to keep, which an employee can feel like, yes, this is being measured, this is what I've achieved, this is how it's impacting business revenue, and that's why I'm earning money.
Okay, so if I can rephrase what you said, so there are two parts. One is the measurable part. The other one, the lack of better word, I'm just saying maybe some of like a sanity check. So this is what a salesperson should be doing anyway. So for example, shelf space maintaining or going to the store on a regular basis. So these are maybe some things that they should be doing. So, and it doesn't make sense to incentivize them for some of the very basic sales activities. So is that right?
Yes, and typically the way you can also split it is to say that there will be these certain key KPIs which you drive through incentives, but then the basic core job of the person is something that you can also drive through your annual appraisal cycles, right? Your annual appraisal cycle that you run for all of your employees, assuming that you would also do it for your sales force. If you don't, please do. And that's what something that, you can capture the rest of their performance on, and that drives their merit increases, their base salary, etc., and is equally important.
Yeah, and you also have sales managers. What are they for, right? If everything is driven only purely by incentives, so why are we even having the sales managers? So I think you're right. So maybe some parts which are measurable and really important, you can keep them in the incentives. Maybe the other things can be driven by the sales manager, maybe annual merit review. So other maybe softer elements to say. Right?
Yes, and the one piece I'd also probably mention is that the intent of sales incentives is to drive behavior, right? So
Right.
to make a behavioral change, you also need to be very targeted and consistent in what you're trying to achieve from them. So not to confuse sales incentives with sales contests, for example, right? Sales incentives should be, they're a part of your core rewards, right? So
Right.
they should be few things that you're driving, and you should consistently drive them, not be changing them every day.
Right. Makes sense. So at the beginning of the beginning, you mentioned that sales managers might have kind of a different incentives versus sales people. So I'm just wondering. So should I, as a person who is deciding on the incentive structure, should I really care about incentivizing sales managers or the field sales managers, or should I just leave them majority of it should be a fixed component?
So I think different companies do it differently, Raghu, but there's a lot of research which shows that high performing teams are perform better when incentivized, right? Some form of variable pay. So of course, for managers, you would have a lower amount of variable in the whole mix because their selling responsibility is low, right? The selling
Right.
responsibility for your sales reps, the people who are out in the field taking the orders, is high. For them, you should have a high variable pay. For the sales managers, you'll probably have a lower percentage, but it does always help drive that performance to have incentives for the entire sales organization.
Okay, yeah, thanks a lot. I think these are really good, maybe simple, but I think very powerful insights. So coming back to you, Varun, so I want you to take a perspective from a salesperson because you worked in the sales and you also have an HR background. But for this question, I want you to take a perspective from a salesperson and tell us something about what are some of the ground level challenges a salesperson faces in terms of incentives.
Sure. So, friends, I guess most of us would agree that higher the sales motivation is, higher is the achievement of the organization. Both are directly correlated, right? But
Right.
still, many of the salespeople will be well below the target which was set for them. And we always say they are not enough motivated and not achieving the target, right? So what is the cause? What is those 3, 4, let's say, basic things which are missing and which would enable a salesperson to directly jump up the curve? So
Right.
if I talk about in very crude terms, the first thing will be the salespeople are not able to see the achievement data even, right? 99% of the companies, I repeat, 99% of the companies do the entire calculation and everything in Excel sheets. And this is the reason they are not able to show the real-time achievement data to the salespeople. Imagine I have worked for the entire week or 10 days. I'm not able to see how much I would have earned incentive on that 7 days data. Now, if I do not get this data, what is the motivation I will have to work the next 15, 20 days in the one? Now, this is very important because all of us know that out of sight is out of mind. If the numbers are not in front of me, it's very simple. I'll not be working enough hard, right? So, as we say, Aarti also told that incentives are to drive the right behaviors. And if these right behaviors are not enforced by way of, let's say, view in front of the salesperson, the motivation is not enough. That's the first thing. Second thing is, we are not reinforcing the idea of a miss by a salesperson. So we do not tell them that salesperson has missed this much. Imagine it's like telling your kid, you never tell a kid what a good thing is. Do you foresee that your kid will do or not do that, right? Similarly, it's a human psychology. If you're not telling a salesperson that salesperson has missed this amount of money because that salesperson has not worked in a particular component or a parameter of incentive plan, it is not going to work at all. That's the second thing.
So
Third thing is,
let me just stop here for a minute. So I'm assuming that with all the ERP systems in place, the sales should be visible, right? The revenues or the profits should be visible to the salesperson, or even that is missing.
that is missing big time. So ERPs have created very good systems for finance teams,
Okay.
right? For IT systems, their supply chain and all. But they have missed big time on showing the right data to the salesperson. You will be surprised, everything is done manually, right? So third point which I wanted to share is because of this, what you said, Raghu, there is very simple one incentive plan for all. Now imagine a salesperson, right? If I take care of account management as well, with respect to my new sales, I need to have different parameters altogether. A hunter and a farmer cannot have same parameters. So if you keep one plan, or let's say very few plans for the entire organization, imagine you have 5 plans for 100% of organization. Basically, you are saying that 20% of the organization is working in a similar pattern, which does not happen at all. So if you have one plan or simple plans, 3-4 simple plans for the entire organization or entire sales team, it's going to bounce back, right? It is not going to give the right push to the salesperson because the components, let's say the parameters or the performance measures are not related to that particular salesperson. So if you are not going to take care of these very simple psychological aspects of impact of execution, it's like a Titanic ship which you have created with much fanfare, but it's going to sink. Of course, minus the fanfare which you would expect it.
No, I think these are very good points, Varun, especially the last one where you talked about the salespeople are also in some sense no two salespeople are highly similar, right? So you clearly have a segment. So one way to segment is hunters versus farmers. So other simple segmentation is just by performance level. So you can look at top 20%, they are inherently very different from the bottom 20%. So I think you're very right when you say that you can't have the same incentive structure. So in fact, there is a very good article on this as a HBR article. So if anybody is interested, what really motivates salespeople, and this is what precisely they talk about in the article. So this is in fact written by my PhD advisor Michael Leher. So he shows that different kinds of incentives motivate different salespeople. So for example, if you have a core performer who's basically like a middle performer, so organizations generally seem to ignore them because you obviously love your stars, right? And you do everything to retain them. And you're probably not in love with the bottom performers and you want to see why they have such a high fixed salary, they're still getting the incentives, but they're not delivering the results. But the big chunk in between, maybe 50 to 60% of the organization is generally ignored. And what they really need, just to give an example, is a tiered target structure. So if you give them one big target, they don't think they can achieve it. But if you give them like a stepwise target, they see that, okay, the lower target seems to be achievable, I can reach that. And the next level target is something that also seems reasonable, given that I have achieved this target, so on and so on. So I encourage everybody to actually read that article if you are wondering how different segments of salespeople are motivated by different kinds of incentives. So with that, let me come back to Aarti again, and I have like a couple of questions on the incentive design. So what is your take on the frequency of incentive? So should I offer them weekly, monthly, bi-weekly, quarterly, or annually? Because I've seen firms doing it differently. Of course, one factor is the industry dependent, right? So, but what could be some other factors that you can think of, or a firm should implement them?
Yeah. So the frequency, interestingly, is as important as the design, Raghu, because if you have an amazing design in place, but you just pay it out by the time the sale has happened 11 months before and people have even forgotten what happened, it's not going to be effective, right? So I think there are multiple, but maybe I can call out 2 key factors you should always keep in mind when you're thinking about the frequency of payout. One is, of course, depending on, like you said, the industry, the business, the firm, what product are you selling, right? What is your business operating cycle? What is that line of sight, that cash conversion cycle that you're looking at? Typically in an FMCG industry, you'll probably see incentives on a monthly basis, right? In the developed world where incentives are commission driven, they're also on a bi-weekly basis. So, you know, the shorter the operating cycle, the sooner the frequency should be. I think the other important piece is how much of the person's pay is variable, right? Now, if 90% of the person's pay is variable, please do pay it every month because he can't be surviving on just 10% of his total compensation on a monthly basis, right? So typically, you'll also, that's why I see that for more senior people, because their variable is a smaller percentage of their total pay, you typically have annual bonuses and things like that, right? But for your salespeople, your frontline field, it could be weekly, it could be monthly. For managers and supervisors, it could be quarterly. That's fairly common.
Okay, I think that again makes sense. So should also look at not just about the sales cycles, but also look at the actual earnings potential, right? Because it's
Yes.
actually bread and butter for a salesperson. So we have to take into both the factors.
Yes. And typically also, Raghu, like if commission plans in certain industries are very common in India, right? So if a large percentage of your salary is purely dependent on your commission, you do need to pay it out at least every month, if not more frequently.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good point, Dr. So with this, let's maybe move on to the next segment, which is basically the implementation challenges that the firms faces. So I would encourage audience at this point, if you have any questions, so please post them in the Q&A window there. And I guess Asta will be looking at some of them, and we will be able to address a few of them today. And we will be happy to share our email IDs. And if anybody wants to get in touch with and wants more clarification, we'll be glad to assist in that. So Aarti, again, coming back to you, so what are some of the key ingredients for a smooth implementation of the sales incentive? So now you have a great incentive structure. Let's say it's the optimal for every individual in the organization, but how do they actually implement? Because as you know, a great strategy doesn't automatically translate into a great implementation. So
Yeah. I think a couple of things, right? One of them I'll start with, which is really the cliche: communicate, 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 and communicate, because it's so important for your frontline to really understand what does the incentive design mean for them, right? Make sure that they have access to the data to see this is what my target is, this is what my achievement is at. If I'm continuing at this run rate, this is the money I'm going to earn. If I do X more, then I can maybe double my earnings, right? So the piece which Varun was talking about, which kind of fits in very nicely, that make sure that they have those reports like very easily available. I mean, everything is app enabled now, right? And there are very few companies which actually show sales employees there on an app, this is what you're trending at, right? So I think the communication and the visibility to the sales employee is extremely crucial. It's very basic, but most of us don't do it right. I think the other piece is also with respect to your sales process and your sales systems, right? You need to have very strong sales processes in place so that they are supporting the employee right. I mean, the last thing you want is an employee saying that मैंने तो ऑर्डर ले लिया था पर वो डिलीवरी तो हुई नहीं तो मेरे पैसे मत काटो.
Right, yeah.
And it happens, right? It happens to the best of us. And those are the kind of scenarios from a more, larger supply chain sales process perspective that you want to make sure that you address any process challenges that there could be, which would cause a detriment to the incentive design implemented.
So is there any reason why there is not sufficient communication on the incentive? So is it just assumed that people will understand it?
Every time I've designed an incentive in any country, the first thing I've always done is spoken to the sales guy and asked him, do you understand incentive design? And never have I ever gotten a clear yes on everything. Okay. Because many times what happens is there are too many priorities, so people will just remember one of those things or two of those things, right? So sometimes I think we try as organizations to communicate, but we don't give it enough importance. Through the year, you see a lot of attrition in your sales frontline as well, right? But you don't keep re-communicating your incentive design throughout the year. You just communicate it when you launch it and then you forget about it.
Okay.
That's not good enough.
Yeah, I think that makes perfect sense, because if incentives are going to drive their behavior, the first and most important thing is that they understand the incentives, right? The salespeople, if they don't even understand the incentives, you can't really expect any benefit from the incentives. So Varun, since you have founded a company to kind of address this issue, so how do you think the technology is going to solve this problem?
Okay, so when you talk about changing the entire ecosystem of sales, especially the incentive part, there are two things which I feel are most important. First is your, of course, the commitment, and second is the technology part. Commitment is important, though we talk about it a lot, but if you talk about transparency, make sure you are being transparent enough to show all the data to everyone, whosoever requires it, right? Second
Okay.
part is technology. It is very important in the sense that your IT has helped you in last 10 to 15 years, right? IT means information technology, but your new IT is going to help you in next 5 years, and that new IT is your incentive technology. Because if we talked about that the person was not able to see the data, second, no reinforcement, third, if
Right.
you want to treat people differentially because they have different skills, their parameters are different, which are they are calculated on, you need to have a technology. It's like sniper shooting rather than mass bombarding. You want each of your salespeople to be a top performer, right? Not to be a low performer. If you want to do that, you need to have technology to take care of all the variables. And why it is important, rather, I should say, is one should understand that incentive technology actually makes your incentive plans smarter. And your organization performance is nothing, but it's a summation of the performances of each individual. So your
Right.
negatives cancel off the positives. So somebody who is not performing will cancel off a good performer, right? And the
Right.
positives will keep adding. So the more you engage the sales team in higher performance cycle through the use of all those things which we talked about from last half an hour, that's going to actually take you much ahead than the competition in the market. And I give you very relevant data. Yeah.
Varun, sorry
Go
to
ahead.
interrupt you. So, can you give like a specific example of how technology can be leveraged in the incentives context?
Sure, sure. So when you, let's say, if we are talking about competition in the market, right? I was talking about it right now. So imagine a new competition has come in a particular segment, in a particular geography, in a particular product you are launching in the market. You think about it. You think about it, but take 2 to 3 months to execute. By
Right.
that time, what happened? First, you have lost the market share because the new entrant has come in and capture the market. Second, you have lost the very good performers. When the competition comes in, they first of all take your coach of best performers only. So
Right.
when we talk about a dynamic market, if you take time to launch a new thing, a new sales incentive scheme because of the new product a competition has launched,
Mm-hmm.
you are going to be hit in two things. One, market share. Second, your top performers. Imagine the technology is there. If you
Correct.
have to come out with a new plan, it will take you just a couple of hours.
Okay.
So something which was taking 2 to 3 months, it will take you a couple of hours. So that's how a technology helps, right? So of course there are multiple benefits, but one of key benefits is this. And
Okay.
one important thing, Raghu, I would like to mention is even your best performers out in the market, right? They will join you because of transparency. So that's of course a very big concept we are talking about. So 5 years back, when I used to interview 10 candidates, 2 out of those 10 candidates will discuss details of a sales incentive plan. 2 out of 10, 20%. Today, in last 1 year, if I would have taken 10 interviews, out of 10 candidates, 6 out of those 10 candidates are asking now details of incentive plans. So imagine the change. In 5 years, people have become so aware of how they need to earn, how the sales plan have to work, how they can make more money. And the best performers, I tell you, they are the ones who ask the most questions. So if you use a technology, those people who ask the most questions will be very keen to join you. And that is something which will give you a competitive edge in the market.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks for your input. So, just to summarize, like what Aarti and Varun has said, so it's very important that the communication happens at the right time. Also, the visibility should be there, which can be achieved through a good technology. And the last part that Varun has mentioned is also probably important in terms of agility. So, how easily are you able to change your incentive structure, right? Because we are operating in a big country like India, so it may not be that easy to operate it manually, to change it manually. These are good points. So probably it's time that we have automated many of the sales processes. We are using technology to a great extent in terms of, I know salespeople use a route plan, right? So the exact plan is given to them, which vendor they should go to, which next customer they should visit. So if it is a pharma company, they give the exact plan in terms of which doctor they should visit, which day, and so on. So if we are able to do that, so why not automate even the incentive structure?
Yeah. 2 points, Raghu, I'd probably add, having used incentive technologies in Pepsi before, right? I think it also really helps drive your governance piece, right? So transparency to the employees was one part of it, but just transparency within the organization, right? From an audit perspective, it's very powerful to have these kinds of technologies in place. And who knows, with the kind of personalization that we've seen in rewards in the last couple of years, it's not very far away from hitting things like sales incentive.
Okay, yeah, good to know. Maybe I'll just add a couple of points here before we open the questions. So when you talked about personalization, so it's interesting that I have done a study on that. So what we have done is, so we actually let the salespeople self-select their incentive. So we had like the firm has designed kind of a 3 incentive plans to say, right? It's not like for the full year. It's for a given month. They were given 3 levels of targets and associated rewards. Obviously, the rewards increase exponentially with the targets, and the salesperson is free to choose any of them, right? So there is no pressure from the manager. You should only choose the 15% one, not the 5% improvement one. Okay? And so there is another group of salespeople which continued with their existing sales incentives. So that gave us a neat comparison between these two groups, what is generally referred as A/B testing or a field experiment. So what we found is the salespeople who self-selected the incentives, right? So which is kind of a personalization in some sense. So they performed much better. So the improvements were astonishing, like in the range of like 10 to 15% in a given month. And the reason being, I think one, they understand the incentive plan. They know exactly, okay, if I'm going to improve by this much, I will get this much money in my at the end of the next month. The second thing is, since I have chosen the target, it's not just imposed on me by the manager. I have much more commitment to the target that I have chosen, because you are free to choose even the lowest goal, right? Even the lowest target. But your reward would have been lower, but you self-selected into a higher target. So which helped them actually commit to the goal, and we could see that their effort levels were much higher. So I think the personalization, I think as a marketing person, I keep talking about segmentation and no two customers are alike. I guess the same principle is applied even in for salespeople. So no two salespeople are alike. So I think you need to design, understand what are the different segments. So maybe you can do some kind of a psychographic segmentation, or maybe ability-based segmentation in terms of hunters versus farmers. Or maybe the simplest is just do by a performance, top performers, middle and core performers, and understand what really motivates them in your firm. So can you design different incentives for these 3 different segments? I think that is going to be a very valuable thing for organization to do as we move forward. So Varun, coming back to you, so are there any suggestions that you or any views on the changing landscapes in light of COVID, or in general the trends that you observe in the market?
Mhm. So, as our topic is about business results, so rather than COVID, see, COVID is for 6 months, 1 year, right? Of course, things will change, which I can share. But in general, if I talk about business results, you generally take 3 to 5 years, because you are capturing more market than your competitors, right? So it's a 5 year kind of a time frame you look at. And there are, in 5 years, actually the entire trend changes. So let's say from 2005 to 2010, everybody started going online. So everybody started having a website. 2010 to 2015 time frame, everybody started going to social media. And remember, whatever trend has been there becomes a hygiene and an expectation in the future. So come 2015, 2020, anybody who does not have a website is considered less professional, right? And anybody who is not on social media is considered less approachable. And if we talk about 2015 to 2020, the time has been amazing. We have been talking about transparency and personalization. Let me tell you, friends, the entire world has moved towards it. Imagine the apps you use, food ordering apps, Swiggy, Zomato, Ola, Uber, which are ride-hailing cabs, even your Amazon, Flipkart, e-commerce app. You can see your rider on a real-time basis. Where the rider is, where my cab is, right? You can see various options to serve you. If you want a big cab, you can select a big cab. If you want a, let's say, South Indian cuisine, you can select a South Indian cuisine. It's nothing but personalization. So your transparency and personalization, which is more relevancy, has become a trend now. It is an expectation and a very hygiene point which everybody in the market will demand. Now, if I talk about 2020-25, which is next 5-year time block, this transparency and relevancy is actually going to become a hygiene point. And when I talk about a hygiene point, generally your top performers, or let's say most promising people in the market, who may be your next sales people, will be most attracted to those companies who are going to have this transparency and relevancy, right? So this is a trend which I can see from a business result perspective. Of course, because of COVID, this need has been highly accentuated. So you need to have right incentive plans now, because gone were the days when you can, lure your candidates by showing them fancy offices and fancy cafeteria, fancy seatings and fancy workplaces. Now they are sitting in their homes in front of a system. What matters the most to them is actually the money, right? Because there are no other benefits which they are getting. If I ask you, Aarti, what if your organization stops paying you from tomorrow? Will you work with that organization? I don't think you will, right? Similarly, Raghu, let's say ISB pays you, but takes away the fringe benefits, which is like access to libraries and all. I guess you will keep working with them, but of course, you will not be that happy. So the main aspect, which is, we can say Maslow's law of hierarchy or all those things, is the money part, which becomes the most important and most impactful tool to drive the right behaviors, right? So how it helps is, it's not, and let me tell you, it's not about the amount of money, but rather the way you pay them. How, why, when, what, all those parts. And it is majorly nothing, but I feel personally is transparency and personalization. A top performer who is in a customer success team does not want to be measured on a upselling, new revenue, right? Similarly, a person who is in a pre-sales team will not like to be measured on the CSAT, which is the operations team aspect. So your relevancy and transparency will attract the right people out in the market and make your company a much better company from a performance perspective.
Okay, yeah, thanks a lot, Varun. So I think now to summarize, so probably the sales incentives have to be looked at slightly differently. I think probably most firms are using legacy systems, what my predecessor has done, or maybe what my competitor has been doing. So I think most people might just copy those. I think it's time probably we rethink about the incentives. Having worked in the US for a couple of years and after my PhD, I know that incentives play a very big role in the US market. They do spend a lot of not just money, but they also spend a lot of time in designing the incentives and communicating the incentives to salespeople. In India, there is not much talk about the incentives, and one reason we thought about this webinar is this might be a good conversation starter, and we hope with this there will be many more discussions, and maybe we can even think about organizing a conference in the future exclusively focusing on sales incentives. So with this, I would like to take up some of the questions from the audience. Since we have only 10 minutes, probably like 3 to 4 questions is what we can take. I'm sorry if I'm not able to answer your question. So my email address is available on my webpage. So you can write to me and I'll be happy to get back to you with a response. So the first question here is by Amol. How do you successfully separate incentives for new sales and account expansion? Would you advise to have same team do sales and account management or separate it completely? Varun,
Okay.
this might be more appropriate for you given your B2B experience. So,
Yeah. So I'll take that up. See, when you talk about two aspects, one is your client management, which is talking to the client, doing governance with the client, hearing daily pain areas which the client is facing. That is totally a separate aspect than a hunting aspect, which is your upselling or let's say a new sales aspect. So
mhm.
better is to have a different team, right? So that you can have different parameters to incentivize them. You cannot ask a person to do new sales as well as manage the relationship with the current client, because then the person will not be able to do new sales, because both of them are 24/7 different jobs altogether. They take up a lot of time. So the best part is, if you are a very small company, of course, then you may think otherwise. But if you are a structured organization, please try to have your sales team, which is into hunting totally separately, and into farming, which is client management separately. One important thing, which is a quick tip, which I'll give is, if you will have for upselling also different team, which is a sales team, it will help you to close the deal in a better way, because the client will keep troubling you for the aspects to be resolved before they sign up. If you ask them to be done with the same customer success manager. So that's a quick insider tip.
Okay, thank you, Varun. So the next one is what will be an ideal period to launch incentives? Is it a calendar year or a financial year? Arti, do you have any views on that?
Yeah, it I think it depends on the year your company follows from a reporting standpoint. Are you like a Jan to December reporting cycle? Is that your annual reporting, or do you follow the tax calendar for the country? Depending on that, that's probably how you should, because that would be your annual business performance. What months would constitute that? That should be the annual cycle.
Okay, yeah, thank you. So maybe this goes back to you again. So I think this is based on our discussion about sales manager should be incentivized. The question is, should the sales executives and their managers have a mix of quantity, target, and profitability, obviously on different percentages?
Sorry,
Um,
can you repeat? Is the question like, should they have the same design, like the same KPIs? Is that what they're asking?
it's not entirely clear to me. So it says, should the sales executives and their managers have a mix of quantity, target, and profitability?
Okay, sure. So, see, quantity target, of course, you will have, right, for any sales team. And when it comes to profitability, honestly, it depends on the kind of product you're selling. So, and the kind of tools you've given your salesperson. So if your sales executive has a certain discounts and allowances in his hand, which he can give away to the customer, then of course, keep profitability as a target, because you want them to use those discounts and allowances very prudently. But if your salesperson has absolutely no impact on the profitability, and all their job and their area of, scope of influence is to make the sell, then it does not make sense to have profitability as a KPI for them. And on the sales executives and their managers piece, the targets should be similar in terms of the KPIs, but it shouldn't be exactly the same, right? So, of course, top line would always be a common target. But think about what are those KPIs that you can have for a sales executive which reward him for what he's supposed to do, but a different KPI for the manager which rewards him for what he's supposed to do. You're never going to have the same ad campaign for two different brands. So you should never have the same incentive design for two different roles.
Yeah, thanks, Arti. So I'd like to add a little insight from a research that one of my colleagues is doing. His name is Madhu Vishwanathan. He is an assistant professor at ISB. So what they have done in the study is they have given these activity-based incentives for the managers. Okay, so what are the activity-based incentives? Basically, whether your salespeople are, that's a pharma context, basically visiting the right number of doctors, and then like how frequently are they visiting the doctors? Are they visiting the pharmacies or not? So these are the activities that a sales person is supposed to do anyway. And goes back to Arthi's point that probably you shouldn't really incentivize them on those, right? So you're anyway giving them incentive on the quantity, on the output. So this might be a good idea to incentivize sales managers on the activities of the salespeople, right? So that could be one clever way where you can mix up. You're not giving the same incentives, but in a way you're addressing both the issues because you want the sales, but at the same time you want the sales by following the right procedure. Because if you're not following a procedure, yeah, you might get a sales for a month or a quarter, but that may not be feasible in the long run, right? So that is something for you to think about. So what are the different ways you can incentivize salespeople and sales manager? They should be largely in a complementary fashion, if I can summarize in one line. Okay?
Yeah.
Uh, the next question here, in a year like current, should process parameters rule slightly with an upper hand versus traditional outcome ones? So probably I kind of address this a little bit. So yes, I think in the current scenario, because you're not going to see an immediate outcome, but still it's very important for you to be doing the right thing in the marketplace. I think so. It's very important for firms to think about their incentive structure and definitely make them more activity based. So I talked about the activity incentives at the sales manager level, but I think you should also think about the salesperson level. Are they doing the right thing? Are they visiting the customers? Are they visiting the whatever, the distributor? So these are the important things that they need to be doing, but because we are in a long haul for this. So this COVID situation probably will take 3 months, 6 months. There are some reports even saying next 2021 end, which is depressing to some extent. But yeah, coming back to the questions, I think the process parameters are really important in this uncertain situation.
I'll just
I
add
would
that.
like to,
Yeah,
yeah,
sure.
Aarti, go ahead, go ahead.
I was just going to add that, it's also questionable what the right process to follow right now is, right? You may not want people going to a customer in a red zone. So even though you probably give precedence to process related parameters because it's very difficult to kind of focus purely on the targets, just think of the downside as well, right? Be very cognizant of the fact that you don't put your sales employee in a box and force him to do something that could cause him any harm. Your employee safety should be front and center of your incentive design as well in these times. So whether it is an output based KPI, whether it's an input based KPI, I think it's important to allow for enough flexibility so that the people are able to adapt to the situation and not feel penalized for being forced to do something which they may not be very comfortable doing.
You talk like a good HR, Arti. Thank you for that advice.
So I will add rather, I would like to extend this question to how the variation can be when a new product or a new geography is launched, right? So we are
Yep.
right now talking about a variation in a COVID sense, right?
Mhm.
I'm trying to say that even if a new product or a new salesperson, let's say, comes in, it's again a change in status quo. So when the status quo changes, you will have to treat it differently from a sales incentive plan. How you can treat it differently is focus on right activities, as Raghu and Aarti said. The activities, by the way, should not be part of your sales incentive plan ever. It should be dependent on the outcomes, not the activities. I repeat, so sales incentive plans should be dependent on the outcomes, not activities. Only exception is when such variability or the dynamic nature of a business, or let's say COVID, new product, new geography, new person, when the status quo changes, then only you should have activities. So that was my point.
Okay, I think we'll take one last question. So I'm just browsing to the questions here. So I think probably this is again relevant to the current context. So let's see. I think I'll take this last question. The current scenario, most organizations are looking at a mix of field and virtual sales specialists. So how would you suggest incentivizing these roles, putting either of the role at a disadvantage?
What was the last one?
The last part is how would you suggest incentivizing these roles without putting either role at a disadvantage?
So, Varun, you want to go first?
Yeah. So when you talk about how the process of selling is going to change in both of these teams, one is your virtual team, second is your field force. You will have to see what is the nature of activities they are doing and what are the outcome changes they are bringing. If the outcomes are same, right? Remember, if the outcomes are same, the sales incentive plan will be same. It may happen that the targets may be less, right? Because the field force, by the nature of being close to client, let's say, may sign much larger deals vis-a-vis a back-end team who is sitting and doing all the calls and giving demos, let's say sitting on a laptop. The targets may be lesser there. So you'll have to see how the variation can be. But if the outcomes are same, personally, the sales incentive plan should be same.
Okay, Arti, what's your take on that?
Yeah. I think it's important to think of are these like two separate teams or are they like one team supporting each other? So, for example, what some companies are doing is for certain outlets, they've just shifted to virtual selling. But then what you might also do is that you've reduced the frequency of visit to the outlet and you've replaced some of those in-person visits with phone calls.
Right.
So if you're servicing the same client being a part of different teams, you should have a common team-based incentive because that pulls you together, puts your efforts in the right direction. But if it is completely different teams that you're completely servicing a different client base being on a virtual setup and you're servicing a different client base being, in a physical setup, it's important to see, like Varun was saying, what's the outcome that you're trying to drive and incentivize that outcome.
Okay, I think makes perfect sense to me. Yeah, I guess we're already 4 minutes above our time limit. So thank you for joining, Varun and Arti, and thank you for all the audience. Sorry, I'm not able to take a few questions. So Asta, back to you.
Thank you, Prof. So I have already in the chat section put my email ID. So if your questions have not been addressed and you would like us to take them, then please mail us your questions and we will try to revert back. And thank you all for joining, especially Professor and Mr. Varun and Ms. Aarti. Thank you so much for sharing your insights, especially on a Friday evening. You know, we have taken considerable of your time. So thank you so much. And yeah, that's it. Have a good Friday evening and have a great weekend, everyone.
Yeah, thanks a lot.